I'm Mathew Kerbis, the subscription attorney, and this is Law Subscribed, your dedicated source for all things subscriptions and the law. Thank you to my sponsors. See links to them in the show notes. Everything discussed is only for educational and entertainment purposes. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to what I think is the final episode of How to Run a Law Firm in 2025. I don't want it to end, Mathew, but here we are. We've had such a great time. Hopefully y'all have learned a lot. We've pulled back the curtains on how we run our businesses. Some times we've fallen flat on our face and times that we've really figured it out and tried to share it all with you. And this last episode, we are going to wrap it up by zooming out a little bit and talking about how does our business work within our life? Because it's not happening in a vacuum. And those lines, especially when you're a solopreneur, can be very blurry, if not non-existent. Especially if you have a partner in life, a spouse, a significant other, or if you have the absolute joy of having children also involved and have the wonderful designation of being a parent. Like, how do you do it all? I get folks who ask me this all the time, right? So much to juggle. So we are just going to share our personal experiences and how we approached being business owners and entrepreneurs within that space, how it has maybe enhanced being a partner and a parent, and how it has maybe made both of those challenging. So, Mathew, what is your experience? You started your firm after having your child, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we have slightly different perspectives because I started the firm first and then had kids. So I'm curious, what crazy idea did you have to go, now that I have like a baby, let's add this new baby to my life?
Yeah. And that is so true, right? Because I network with a lot of entrepreneurs and like your business is your baby, you know? And in particular, when you don't have kids, you're up late working on your business, right? Rather than stay up late because your kid is like having a night terror or like had an accident or whatever, right? At least that's the stage of life I'm in right now.
Yep, feel you there.
Yeah, way past the diaper phase, although that will keep you up a lot in the middle of the night too. Yeah, I did it in part because I was a parent, right? And that's something I hear a lot, even from women founders of law firms on the Law Subscribed podcast, because working in the traditional law firm environment was not going to work for them when they are now also a parent. And, as I've said, I've been heard, said on many podcasts and my own before, it's not fair and it's not right, but our society puts a lot of pressure on women that they both do the house things, even if they have a full-time job, right? So that's why we've seen more women attorneys being innovative with solo practice law firms than men, at least that I've seen. So, for me though, I've always tried to be an equal partner. And what does that even mean? Like an equal parent, right? Because it's like your kid, I mean, you did family law and you're still kind of doing it. Like a kid is not 50-50 your kid. It's 100% and 100% your kid, right? For both parents, So I try to take that same approach just with my partnership with my wife in general, in that like everything's 100% our responsibilities. We don't like literally divvy it up. Like the household tasks have to get done and we're both responsible for them, right? Same thing with being a parent. But look, my wife works a traditional corporate gig since I think it was like mid to late 2024. She's been back in the office 5 days a week. Thankfully, her job is not too bad of a commute, right? So like 20-ish minutes each way. So not terrible, but so like right now, like having been an entrepreneur and having my own practice and being able to set my own hours, I've also been able to take on some more of the household tasks because she has to now do this commute again, right? So like I'm doing most of the laundry, right? I'm doing most of the dishes. And it's great because I could kind of automate that to a certain extent. We just have to be good with our household standard operating procedures of load the dishwasher, don't put things in the sink. And we just recently had to get a new dishwasher, perils of home ownership, but this new dishwasher is huge. And because my wife's company where she works now, we got like a major discount because like they make parts, like electronic parts. So we have this massive dishwasher. And so it washes way more dishes, which is amazing. And it's more energy efficient, water efficient, all that. So like we just have plenty of room to put the dishes in. And even we don't wait for it to be full. We just run it every day, right? I make sure to run it every day. And so like I've taken on a lot of the household tasks, but I've tried to streamline that wherever I can. We have a robot vacuum and mop. And so the robot vacuum and mop like vacuums and mops everything. Now, talk about planning ahead for like building out your home office. Well, if you're going to get a robot mop vacuum, it does not do tassels well. Do not buy rugs with tassels. You're going to have to tuck them in every time you run that sucker. Literally, that sucker, pun unintended, though intended in hindsight. And so like little things like that, right? So I'm, Mr. Automation and his law firm, I've tried, now that I'm taking over a lot of household duties, I'm trying to automate everything that I can that's a household duty.
You're gonna have one
Uh,
of those robots that like rolls in and like wakes you up. It's like, "Good morning, Matthew. Time to wake," and then it's gonna make your coffee. That's gonna be you.
Well, Lauren, I am going to be an early adopter for these literal Gen AI powered robots. No, I've seen them. So they're like price ranges between $8,000 and like $30,000 for like a home robot. Like if it's like leasing a car, and if it could like do all of these things, oh my gosh, I am signing up for one of those things right away. Like right away. And yeah, whatever. Like the company is going to have a camera and a microphone inside my house. Maybe I just keep it to the first floor. Like it's never allowed to come upstairs, something like that. But yeah. So anyway, I mean, that's sort of like a really roundabout answer to the question, right? But yeah, so I originally got started launching my own firm in part because one of us needed flexibility for the kiddo, right? And we're both now working downtown. I've sort of talked about this before, and so lawyers have been starting law firms for hundreds of years. And so I was going to do that. And I was going to do it very differently and take some risks. And the first year was tough financially. But thankfully, we didn't have to go into our savings at all because I was able to bring in enough revenue to at least do a little bit better than break even for what our expenses were that year. And then from there, it's just been like doubling of revenue over and over. And so it couldn't have been a better decision. And I just make sure, and these have changed, that now nobody could book a call with me until 9 a.m. and I turn it off at 4:30. All calls must end by 4:30. And I still do work outside of those times, but I just need to be able to go and get my kid or drop my kid off because that's my responsibility. That's the responsibility I've taken on. So like setting boundaries. And I know you do a good job with setting boundaries of like even some days that you won't take any meetings, right? So like, let's, tell the listeners about that.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad that's what you brought up because that was going to be my question there's only 24 hours in a day. And so we got to make it all work within that finite amount of time. And I think that's a critical aspect of it is identifying what all of the priorities in your life are. And there are big ones like spouses and kiddos, but it could also be like for me, it's moving every day. So being able to go to the gym or go for a walk, having time for relaxing, which I'm terrible at, but I know I need to do, or hobbies, right? And then there's work. So it's like, oh my God, how do I fit all of that into the day? And so having really clear boundaries and schedules around work, I have found is the first line of defense because that very easily can creep into, right, late nights or kiddos trying to get my attention for the couple hours I have them after school. I don't want to look back and be like, wow, I totally missed those absolute opportune times. And they just remember mom working. So really being able to say like, I work between these hours. For me, I don't do any client meetings on Mondays. That's like my deep work day where I get through a lot of drafting and I just kind of put my head down and plow through things. And then in general, Fridays are not law firm days. I'll do other projects. I work a lot on a different practice, kind of passion things that I want to work on, but it's also sort of me. Yes, Matthew,
This
yes.
we're recording on a Friday, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Things that I'm just excited about, I want to share in the world. And a lot of times, there are times for me to connect. There are days that I'll go grab coffee with somebody I haven't seen, or sometimes it's just like, I just need an afternoon to like do nothing. Like I've been, it's been burning the candle at both ends. It's just been a really busy couple of weeks, which is great, but I want to have the ability to go, I need a break to reset and recharge. So really holding to those, it's hard when clients make demands. I don't want to say demands, when clients request, hey, Friday would be really great for me to meet. If it's the only absolute opportunity because, they're a nurse and they work the rest of the day and they work these 12-hour shifts, like, of course, I'm going to make it work for my client. But I often will say, well, how about, Tuesday afternoon? Like I'll always try and give another option that would work better for me. And 95% of the time they go, oh, yeah, that works great. They're just throwing out ideas. So really sticking to that. I actually just had a client who hired me a couple of months ago tell me that part of the reason she hired me was because the law firm is not open on Friday. And this is not something I like share actively. Like if you go on Google, it says it's Clo, right? You go on Yelp, like that is my business, technical business hours, but it's not something when somebody signs up, I ever say like, listen, I'm not going to talk to you on Friday because I want to have that flexibility. So I didn't think anybody ever really noticed. And I also was a little afraid that if I said, oh, I only work 4 days a week, that I would lose business. So I
Mhm.
just, and I didn't, she just emailed me like, oh, I just wanted to let you know part of the reason I hired you is because you don't work on Fridays and I know you're a mom. And to me, that said, you have these other priorities that you also hold really high. And she's an older person. She unfortunately just lost her husband. She goes, I wish I had done that. As somebody who was a working mom, to your point, Matthew, that society expects us to work like we don't have kids and be a wife like, right, we don't, or be a mom like we don't have a business. She said she regretted that, like that's how she had to be. And so I was like, wow, something I thought was a little bit of a on me. It's actually really love it. I think that if you hold those boundaries, or particularly those things that are important to you, your right client is going to appreciate that. And that's what I've always really tried to stick to. But having that really defined schedule, I think is critical. And I do it much like you do, right? I don't take calls. Mine is before I think 10:30 or 11 because I go to the gym most days
Yeah.
or do some sort of workout. But then, yeah, kind of right 4:30, like I got to be done. I want to go get my kids. I want to be there for dinner, whatever it is that's important to me. So really making sure your business is a part of your life. It doesn't run your life.
Right. Right. And, like people say work-life balance, work-life integration, like whatever terminology you want to use, because when you're an entrepreneur, when you're a business owner, like it is just part of your life. Right. But setting those boundaries are really important. And also then respecting the boundaries of others, right? Going back to that like golden rule or the platinum rule, like, cause it's like treat others the way you want to be treated, but treat them how they want to be treated. And so, maybe put yourself in the shoes of your clients, other lawyers, and think, well, if I'm setting my boundaries, I wonder what their boundaries are. So even though I might be working like from like 9 to 10 some nights, I'm scheduling emails to be sent out in the morning, right? Like if I could schedule something to be sent at a reasonable hour, but I just want to get it off my plate in the middle of the night, I will try to, either set a calendar reminder to do that thing, or if it's an email, schedule the email to be sent later. And if you didn't know, you could schedule emails to be sent later.
Yes, I use it all the time. And I even added, this came across my desk, so I have to give credit to whoever started this, but I actually added to my email signature and to my engagement agreements something to the effect of like managing work and life is unique for everybody. And so for my email, it says like, I'm sending this email at a time that works for me. Please respond at a time that works for you. So that's exactly to your point is I may be sending it at 8 o'clock at night because I'm just up and working or whatever it is, or 7:30 in the morning. But I also recognize that the person receiving it has their own life that they're managing. And so I don't want them to feel obligated to respond at the same time. And I say the same thing in my engagement agreements to kind of set that expectation with clients is like, listen, you respond when you want to respond. And if that's at 10 o'clock at night because you're busy too, wonderful. I love it. But I may not respond back to you, right? So it's always that like, yes, I'm available, but it's not 24/7. I don't sleep right with my phone next to me and I'm going to jump up as soon as a client calls. And I think the right client, again, really appreciates that because they want that reciprocated to them.
Let me tell you about the brand new sponsor for Law Subscribed, Paxton. I've been using Paxton as my legal AI tool for over 2 years. I continue to evaluate and demo other legal AI tools in the market and still decide to stick with Paxton because of its reliability, its accuracy, its ease of use, affordability, and they do not lock you into a long-term contract. Now, as a transactional and fractional general counsel attorney, I'm using Paxton for all of my substantive and non-substantive legal work, whether that's legal research, analysis, drafting, or enhancing existing legal work product. In the time it used to take me to draft and analyze legal documents, now, after a little bit of back and forth with Paxton, I have something ready to go in minutes that used to take hours or even days. While I'm no longer a litigator, I could see how valuable Paxton would be when researching a new issue, preparing for a deposition, drafting a motion, or going to trial. So if your firm would benefit from using Paxton as your legal AI tool, then make sure to use the link in the description when signing up to let Paxton know I sent you. That's all about our new sponsor. Now back to the show. Yeah. Yeah. So another way that I think about like being a small business owner and having a partner or wife, a spouse, a husband, whatever, is I think of my wife kind of as my boss.
Please
You know,
share this episode with her.
I run a lot of big things, like big decisions by her, right? Because even though it is my business, I own it. You know, I'm on the insurance. I'm on everybody. It is like I started this law firm in large part not just because I wanted to change the world, and I kind of do. Oh, that's more Kerbis versus LLC with the podcast and stuff, but to prove that I could do it and that it could be done for folks, to inspire them in a way, and it was to have flexibility in our life. And, you know, it took a little bit to get to the same amount of money that I was making at a previous law firm. And I'll never make the stupid amount of millions of dollars you could make working in big law, but I also have all the flexibility and things we've discussed. But it was a family decision too, like for me to even start the business. Like we both talked about it. So really big decisions, like, you know, I was thinking about maybe doing Facebook ads for the first time. Like if I actually, because I've really, I think, maximized the amount of time I could spend doing business development and the types of clients I could get from that. And so I was thinking, well, maybe I want to branch out into doing something that doesn't cost a lot and you could sort of quickly see some return on investment. And since I'm the subscription attorney, I have subscribers as clients, like I could even just do it for a year and like not do it again. And some of those clients will still be subscribed. So it should, whatever I spend, it should eventually pay for itself. But like something like that, where I will have to have more of an expenditure, which is literally money I could not pay myself on a distribution, right? That's something I talked about with my wife first, and I haven't done it yet, but she's consented. And even if she doesn't consent, I could still go and do it. But like I like to involve her, right? And so, well, and then I want to talk about like the downsides of that, of like having your partner and stuff. But like how about for you and your spouse, Lauren? Like, do you have those types of conversations? I forget. Is he an entrepreneur too? Like, does he have his
He
own business?
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're real nuts in our family. I
Yeah.
appreciate Matthew, right? Having a spouse who maybe has a more traditional, stable sort of income. And that can be so helpful when you're going out on your own because there are a lot of ebbs and flows. So my husband is an entrepreneur. He also owns his own business. He's a little bit more in a stable market. So we calculated the risk trying to be kind of smart about this. But what I love about that is he's not in the legal space. And so, yeah, I often run sort of business development, marketing. Should I add on this new service? I'm thinking about doing this, kind of the creative aspect of being an entrepreneur with him. And I like that because, you know, as a solo, it's just us. So I could sit here all day and be like, you know, ChatGPT, do you think this is a good idea? But like, I would like to talk to another human. And he was in sales for a really long time. So he has a great like business brain. And so, yeah, I will often sort of go in there and say, you know, I'm thinking about doing this new service or doing this marketing, you know, what about this sales kind of approach? And we'll sort of chat through it and talk through the numbers. He also is the one who will look at my revenue numbers and be like, oh, you could easily double this. So I also get that from him of like, that'd be real nice. Like, okay, well, you don't have to do the work. I gotta do the work. So it's nice to have that sort of feedback. I think at this point, you know, 10 years in, I sort of ultimately do what I want to do because I am the boss over here. Maybe I'm not going to share this episode with him because he's going to be like, you be more like Matthew. But
Well,
yeah, it is nice.
you'd be each other's bosses by that reasoning, right? You're his boss for his business, and he's your boss for your business.
Yes, that's what I should tell him.
If he would be willing to let you be the ultimate decision maker on big decisions for his business, then you could reciprocate, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to do that, so I'm in the clear. I can be my own boss over here. But yeah, it is nice to have someone. But I think even if you don't have you know, partner that you or significant other, you know, even having a best friend, just somebody else, it's so important for us in our community to build that out, that it's not just you all the time thinking about everything and kind of holding everything. But if that person happens to live in your house with you and you make other life decisions together, that can be such a benefit.
Yeah, and look, this was never meant to be a sales pitch, but this is why Lauren has a different practice. And this is why I have Law Subscribed, and you know, whatever becomes the future of subscriptionseminar.com, you know, like we are here, you know, for the listeners to talk about this stuff with. Like I just had somebody reach out on LinkedIn just a few days ago at time of recording, I answered some questions, and then I responded. I said, "Hey, just so you know, like, yeah, my podcast has had tens of thousands of downloads. I like just recently crossed like the 30,000 download
Woo!
mark. I know, and I mean, but what does that even mean, right? And iPhone users with privacy settings turns on aren't even counted. So I could have crossed that threshold a long time ago. But the point is like I get lots of downloads over the years, and so few people actually reach out, right? Like it's fewer than 100, after years and 30,000 downloads. So like just hearing from folks too is like kind of nice being a podcaster. Like, oh yeah, yeah, those numbers aren't just like numbers on like a website. Like, oh yeah, humans are listening. This is cool. People reach out. So highly encourage you to reach out to me and Lauren. And if you actually wanted like hands-on coaching and stuff, like we do that kind of stuff too. But always willing to DM a few times on LinkedIn if there's just something you want to run by another lawyer. And also, Lauren, obviously you could always reach out to me too with stuff.
Yes,
I'm
that's
happy
true.
to,
That's true. I know. I don't
like,
want to. I don't want to overstay my welcome.
you could always ping me. Well, that's a tease for a bonus episode of how to run a law firm in 2025 / its own thing. I don't know. We'll see how it ends up. But going down like the not always great route of being an entrepreneur and having like a spouse. Well, what I found is there's very few bad downsides, in my opinion, about having a kid, being a parent, and being an entrepreneur, because at least the clients I represent and the other lawyers and everybody, like almost everybody has a child at this point, at least for like the people I'm helping. And everyone is the child of parents. So like we could all kind of empathize with, oh, like your kid is sick, totally reschedule, not a problem, right? So like those things happen. But I'm happy to be able to be there for my kid, and people being understanding that rescheduled things get rescheduled. And I'm fortunate enough that sometimes if it's a really big deal or transaction or call that we've been waiting for or whatever, like my parents are nearby and they are much further along in their careers, and they could kind of almost like they're at retirement age, but they're having fun. So they're not retired. So like they might be able to help out. But my mom's gone on a trip right now. So like maybe there are times where that's not even an option. But with my wife, who's not an entrepreneur, so I don't know, Lauren, I'm curious to get your perspective on this. Sometimes I give her like wins or things I'm excited about, and she's just like doesn't get it and actually thinks it's not a win. And that's hard. And that's one of the reasons why
It's
like
really hard.
I network with a lot of entrepreneurs, and I do have a lot of entrepreneurs in my network. I could share things with them, and they'll be like, oh, that's a great milestone, whatever. And my wife is like, so are they a paying client, or so that thing, like, you think you're going to get clients from that? Like, it all kind of just comes to back, like signing up clients and doing things that don't scale, but are really good for the business sometimes are hard to understand when you're not the entrepreneur-minded person.
Yes, it's a different mentality. It's a different trench that you're in. And I'm sure there are, wins that maybe she has in the corporate world that you would be like, and yeah, sure, that sounds great. So I think, yes, you surrounding yourself with folks who really do understand. I think it's one of those things, probably like most things in life, that you don't get it until you're in it. And entrepreneurship is really freaking hard. And there are days, even still, they're less and less, but I think, what did I do? Like, I could have easily just gotten my paycheck and showed up every week and not had to worry about all this other stuff. Granted, I get a ton of other benefits, so I would never change it, but it is really hard. And so you want to find someone that you can vent to that goes, yes, I get that. I've had that happen. Or, something that may seem like a huge win to you might feel like a small win to somebody who doesn't get it. You do want folks in your corner who are going to celebrate you, and you will celebrate them. Otherwise, the road is real long and lonely, and not something I would want to totally do on my own. Love being a solo, but you got to have a community.
Absolutely. And so going back to the parenthood thing, as we start to like wrap up this episode, like my daughter knows, she's 4, but she's known it for like at least a year, that like daddy's a lawyer. She doesn't know what that means, but she's memorized that daddy is a lawyer. And so if she sees a picture of me in a suit, she's like, daddy the lawyer. And I've also started to teach her like about like daddy has his own business and daddy's an entrepreneur. And like just like teaching her even from a young age that you could have your own business, that you could do your own thing, and like you could get your own clients, and that kind of a thing, and just teaching her about that. And I think I might have said it in one of the financial episodes, maybe I didn't, but like we don't put money into a 529 plan because maybe she just wants to start her own business, and I could be her first investor, Or she could go to college and you could invest in the money that was there but it, could be spent on that, but it's not going to be locked in to just college. Cause look, that's like 14 years from now for us. I don't know what right now we might not have a Department of Education, at that time for the federal government. So who knows what it's going to look like. Right. And look, I represent clients, small business owners that didn't go to college and they're making amazing money. So you don't need to go to college to make a good living if you can start a business. So, I am all about trying to at least teach that as a path, not the path, but a path that my daughter could take if she wants to when she's old enough.
And I will say on behalf of your daughter, having a dad who supports a female entrepreneur, which we do not get a lot of love in our society, is huge. So I will thank you on behalf of her. But that's one of the things I think I am most proud of is I have two daughters and they are 7 and 4 currently. And I did a sponsorship at one of my kiddos' schools, and my law firm logo is hanging outside of the school. And every time we drive by, my 7-year-old points it out, and she doesn't quite get sort of what it all means yet, but I do talk to her a lot about, mom's a lawyer and I have my own business, and I've had my own business, since before you were born. And I'm my own boss, and this is what I do and how I help people. But yeah, it really gives them, I think, somebody in their life that they can see as a real life example that built something from the ground up that, has made an impact, hopefully for my clients and my community, and has done it, particularly as a female-owned, woman-owned business. That's really important to me that they see that this is not, entrepreneurship is not just for the men, that they too can be super successful. And so I really am proud of being able to be that example. And I have certainly had some eye rolls of, I'm not as good of a mom because I run my own business. I've definitely gotten that message sent my way. And I, tend to think I'm probably, I believe, a better mom because I'm showing my kids that you can do both. You don't just have to choose, right, being a career person and being a parent. You can do both really well, hopefully. But it's not a binary choice. So yeah, thanks. All of our little girls maybe are gonna change the world one day with their own ventures.
Maybe. And it doesn't hurt to have parents who have been entrepreneurs and are lawyers.
Very true. Yep.
Even Lauren, if you're not a business lawyer, you would be able to help with some basic legal stuff, around being an entrepreneur, since you are also an entrepreneur and a lawyer. So
the win-win for everybody.
Yeah. I also there's one more thing I wanted to cover that because it's not all rainbows and sunshine. Oh yeah. While my wife does ultimately like what she does, she sees that my job, even as many hours as I could put into having, my own business, that is also a job because I'm a solopreneur, that it fills my cup rather than drains my cup, right? Even when I'm doing the things that if I were working for somebody else, it would be so draining because it's working for myself and helping my clients and it's, my revenue and my business, that it is she could tell how much fun I'm having running my own business, even when it's hard. And she is a little jealous, and she tells me sometimes, and she's like, you just get to have fun all day. It's sometimes we do have an argument, right? I'm yes, but I'm working, it is work, right? And that's not to say she doesn't enjoy her job, and she does, but it is different, working a corporate gig versus being an entrepreneur where you've achieved some modicum of success. Right. And I'm not here to tell you it's all rainbows and sunshine. I'm not here to tell you that I couldn't be making more money working at a traditional law firm job. I probably could, in particular, because I squeeze my hours. And while I'm not billing by the hour, if I had more time to put into the firm, I could certainly probably generate more revenue. Right. But I choose not to because I'm a parent and because I've decided to take on some more of those household duties because I have the flexibility and I work from home. So yeah, so that's sort of the final thought that I have, Lauren. I don't know, you kind of gave your final thought, but are there any final tidbits as we round out our last formal topic episode of How to Run a Law Firm in 2025?
I'm so sad. I think we may have talked about this, but I think it's brings home all of this point that for each listener, I think you have to ask yourself, what is enough for you? and what does that look like? And, is making more money it? Maybe. I mean, I'm not gonna hate. I mean, I totally get it. I get where you're coming from. But I think, for me, and it sounds like you too, Matthew, right? At the end of the day, it's like if I have enough money, that's one resource. But there's another resource that I can't buy more of, which is time. And, time for myself, time with my family, time with my kids in particular. It's such a short period that they are in my house, in this space, this season that we have them with. And so, really thinking about, sure, could you make more money? But what do you have to give up, and, what's most important to you, and just what's enough? And I think we get really caught on that treadmill of more, more, more. We see other people doing it differently. They may have more external trappings of success, but you really have to come back that the beauty of being a solo is you are the boss. You're the boss of your business and you're the boss of your life, and really deciding how those two are going to work together and what makes the most sense for you.
Well, thanks everybody for tuning into this special series, at least at the Law Subscribed website. If you go to www.lawsubscribed.com/HTRALF 2025, that's How to Run a Law Firm 2025, but just the first letters, you'll see the list of all of the episodes and their titles with hyperlinks to each episode. So if you're a Law Subscribed listener, that will be now a tab on my website that you could just go, and whenever you're listening to this, whether it's in 2025 or beyond, you could click on the topic that interests you most. So thanks everybody for sticking with us for this series. And yeah, if you want Lauren and I to keep doing this, send us topic ideas and we will come back together and we will do something like this again. But Lauren, to you, it's been an absolute pleasure to do the co-hosting duties with you on this special series. It's been a blast.
Same. It's just been the utmost joy. I have loved every second of it. I hope y'all send some questions in so I have more excuses to chat with Matthew, because I've learned so much. But thank you. Yes, this was just a joy.
So for our diehards out there will be a bonus episode with me and Lauren, and that is called that's what we're going to call subscription therapy for Lester Law Firm. And the life lawyer of Lauren over here, your life lawyer, my life lawyer. And we're going to talk all about subscriptions and how she could be leveraging subscriptions to generate more revenue in her business, to allow even more work-life balance with her family life and being an entrepreneur. So don't worry. We got one more special bonus episode that's not necessarily about how to run a law firm in 2025, but one more episode with me and Lauren coming up next week. And that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in. Make someone's day by sharing this episode with them. The best way to get in touch is to follow and message me on LinkedIn. To get extra content, subscribe to the newsletter at www.lawsubscribe.com, where you can also become a paid subscriber to get episodes and content early. Until next time, this is Mathew Kerbis with Law Subscribed.